Hi, it's Tess, and today's tip is 475, and I guess the cat is going to say hello today. I wanted to make sure I'm on here. I've been listening to Malcolm Gladwell. That's some books that Doc V has been talking about recently, and the one I was listening to today was Outliers. And I'm really finding I love audibles or any kind of audio book. I know I've mentioned I'm an avid book reader, always have been, but these audibles let me listen in the background, which keeps my mind active as I move forward. But what's interesting about this Outliers is that Outliers is talking about successful people and what presented to make them successful. And granted, I'm just kind of giving a brief of what I've gathered from listening to it, and I will listen to it more than once because that's my pattern. But what I found extremely interesting about this is the book kind of started off looking at sports personalities and what they were identifying is that children are identified as gifted in sports. The pattern has always found that it's generally kids that are born, say, between January and March. Well, if you're doing some further research, because you don't want to just assume that that first piece of information you gathered is true, they did some further research finding out that it's based on being ready, and it's based on putting time in. And I'm going to say I agree with this. Hi, Dolly. Good to see you. I agree with this from some stuff I learned when I was tutoring. Many of my students, there's always a push sometimes that students are put into school early for kindergarten or what they consider a little bit late based on what their birthdays are. But what was really interesting about this book, Outliers, is that it was talking about how children that are a little bit older and a little bit bigger seem to have some advantages over their counterparts because they have a little bit more time to mature. And I found that to be really interesting, and I almost wish I had all the information on the students that I taught reading and math to, because I'd wonder if there is a pattern that way too. Because what they were talking about is that one thing is for certain, they're saying that gifted is a case of practicing. 10,000 hours of practice will get somebody gifted, or what we call gifted, in a certain area. I know that we've talked about that in different books that we've read. Doc V's talked about it in the lives that we've had, that it's practice that makes us excel at something. But what I found really interesting and makes me curious is the idea that, like, when we have children who excel at sports, they're finding they're born earlier in the year, which makes them a little bit older than their counterparts, and in many cases, maybe a little bit bigger than their counterparts. I'm not saying everybody shouldn't have an opportunity, but if there is some kind of weighting that way, it's something that we want to consider. And then the other idea, and I agree with this now, I guess younger I probably didn't, but I do agree that if somebody has a passion for learning something, there's always an opportunity to at least gain some skills on it. And I think based on what this article is talking about, how far you go with that skill is going to depend on how many hours you want to put into learning. I can remember, and this will age me, so I'll go ahead and own it, but I was a very, very good typist before computers and laptops took over. I was probably up 90, 100 words a minute, and I could type it but I loved typing. So whenever I could, I'd be in the typing lab and I'd be typing. I actually found that when I first transitioned over to laptops and computers, they couldn't keep up with the speed that I could keep on a manual typewriter or on an electric typewriter. But I found it really interesting because I do think it's true that everything is about the time that you put into it. If you're going to run a marathon, it's about putting some hours in ahead of time to get yourself ready. I've probably told people that I rode 300 miles in a weekend on a bicycle. I did better the more miles I got under my belt before I tried attempting that. I will say I probably jumped in too soon. But it's really interesting that they're more or less saying anything that you want to master. They were talking about the Beatles. I had no idea that in the very beginning, the Beatles had a case where they were being called to the same location. They had 8-hour, 9-hour blocks of time that they would have to play music, and because that's what they were doing, they had to become very creative with their music. And when they calculated it out, they had put 10,000 hours in. They talked to like Bill Gates, and then there was Bill another bill that was here, that was actually in Michigan, that the reason that they excelled is that they were able to get involved in computers and clock a lot of hours, because in the beginning with computers you had to get lab time, so you could only have a small block of opportunity where you could practice with computers. And what they were saying is that in these computers, these gentlemen that excelled found opportunities or windows of opportunity where they could get in the computer lab in the wee hours of the morning, or somebody found a glitch in a system that would allow them to book more than 1 hour at a time. So the gifted sometimes is by creating an opportunity and committing to doing the work. I even think about this weight loss journey for me. Why is it working this time? It's because I'm forever looking for a new way to kick it up a little bit, to keep it moving forward, to keep it interesting, to learn something more than I knew yesterday. And I think that's what it happens for all of us, is that we have to decide what it is we want to pursue, and then we have to put in some time on it, whether it's listening to audibles, whether it's going to a class, whether it's getting certifications or getting some type of credentials. It is about what we want to put our time in. And they were talking about like what would have happened if some of these people that put 10,000 hours in on their craft had they sat home with Netflix. And I know that's painful for some of us, and I used to be one of those people, but I'm finding that my life being more active and going on to these events and meeting people that are succeeding and giving myself an opportunity to succeed at different levels is actually fun. It's exciting. There was a time when I kind of gave up self-help books because I thought I was getting too old. And what I'm finding now is it's really interesting. It's a lot of fun to be available and to learn something new. There's a freshness. There's an excitement. I came back from 2 events back to back over the past 2 weeks, and I came back with a new hope, a new excitement, a new joy, a new passion, and it gives me a drive to move forward in ways that I maybe thought the door was closed on. And I'm going to say I don't think there's ever a door closed. But again, this is Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. It's a book. He's got 3 books out that Doc V recommended, and it caught my curiosity, so I'm listening to the audio of it. But I'm going to continue down the path with these books because it's really interesting. He took the idea of like sports personalities and like the gifted in painting or in music, and how that the gifted part is in finding the opportunities to put the hours in to master your craft. So it's almost like there's nothing beyond any of us if we're willing to identify an opportunity and commit to putting in the hours. Anything is possible for any of us. And find the things that you can be excited about or things that can be fun for you. My mom's talking a lot about painting. That's something she talked about some years ago, but now I think she's going to be in a point where she'll start doing that soon. I've always loved learning, so this is really fun for me. I know that historically I tended to be a person with anxiety, so having audible books or audio books to listen to lets my mind that sometimes gets on a train that it shouldn't be on, staying on something that can be moving me forward. So if you think there's something that you have a little tickle that you want to pursue, I would say go for it. Maybe you're not going to become the next Bill Gates, but that doesn't mean that you can't find something that you enjoy. Put in a little bit of dedicated time towards it and move forward. I've had to make my weight loss journey a passion or something that I'm pursuing all the time too, which is part of these lives, because if I don't stay engaged in it, or if I don't stay visible, or if I don't stay upfront on it, I had fear of falling back to the old way. Just the reminder, I lost over 100 pounds, gained it all back, ended up at a BMI of 60. Now I'm almost 6 years out and I'm down over half my body weight, half my BMI. It's been work, but it's been probably some of the greatest work of my life, because I don't know how much of a quality life I would have had I not taken it by the horns and done something about it. So if there's something that just drives a little interest in you or drives a little passion in you, maybe, and Dr. talks about it all the time, there are YouTube videos, there are audio books, there are there are people that you know that might be able to help you push forward. Tay, how are you, kiddo? Soon I'll have to call you the mom, and the new kiddo will be the kiddo now. But it's so exciting when I start to look at life. I am not happy that the past couple of years has caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, but I'm grateful that I used the past couple of years to move myself forward into different areas of life. I'm grateful that I can look at what will be the last phase of my work, or at least what I appear to think is going to be the last phase of my work, in a different way than what I thought it would be. I'm excited to open new doors, and I guess I would like that same thing for you. If you have a desire for more, you're never too old. It's never too late. Just start dabbling with a YouTube video, dabbling with a little bit of, maybe there's an online course you want to take. Maybe there's a credential you want to get. Maybe there's a coaching certificate you want to get. Nothing is beyond your reach. And when I sit back and I look at my life, my problem probably has been that I dabble in a lot of stuff. I mean, most people that know me will know I've tutored, I've worked multiple jobs, I've done children's story hours, and these are all on top of a full-time job. That's just my personality. Well, hello, good to see you. Hello, everyone who's on. And I've always had a drive to learn more. I've always had a drive to experience new things. And I think it's part of what keeps life interesting, exciting, and moving forward. If you haven't, that Malcolm Gladwell Outliers, Dr. was talking about outliers, the tipping point, and blink within the past week. And I'm listening to Outliers right now. And it's really interesting how they're showing that what we think is a gifted athlete, what really went into play to create what appears to be a gifted athlete. It's not as easy as people think, that they just woke up one day and it was a beautiful gift dropped in their lap. They did a lot of work to do it. And he was showing, like, even how the Beatles, I had no idea, but when they calculated out 10,000 hours of practice before they hit the next level. Bill Gates, 10,000 hours of practice before he hit the next level. It's all the way around that what we call gifted, or the people that we think had something that none of us have, it was that they had the commitment to try to reach for something more and put in the time to reach that next level. And it can be fun. It can be exciting. If you look for the right thing, it can be really exciting. I am very excited about what's going forward, and I don't exactly know all the pieces. I just know I'm moving in a direction that I never thought would be available to me. So I would say the same for you guys. If you're struggling with something, look for another approach to it. If it's your weight loss, maybe you want to invite a little bit of activity, but don't go overboard. Just invite a little bit. Start learning and see what you're passionate about. Just keep moving forward in a new way so that you can find excitement, joy, and learning so that your journey keeps moving forward. I am 100% confident right now that the reason I'm still in this journey, still losing weight, still succeeding 6 years post-surgical, when the first time I didn't make it a year and I'd gained it all back, is because I have not stopped reaching for a better understanding of how to keep this weight off than I've ever had in my life before. I've decided I don't care if I have to climb over, under, around, or through. I can't give up, because going back to being the person watching life from the sidelines is not something I'm willing to do again. So think about what you might want to push forward on, and pick up that YouTube video, pick up an audio book, join an online class, look for a credential, but let yourself experience it, because you might just find, like I'm finding, it gives your life a whole new meaning, a whole new joy, and a whole new reason to get up a little bit earlier today than you did yesterday. And Tay, I can't wait to see you. I know it'll be soon, and I can't wait to meet the little one when it's time for him to come join us. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you very much, and I will be live in Doc V's group tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, and have a beautiful day.